In today's lesson, I'm going to show you some useful templates for some common IELTS speaking questions. The idea is that you can take my answers and then use the structure to write your own answers. Now, remember, it's not a good idea to memorize these answers. Examiners hate that. However, by taking your time to prepare top answers now, you'll be more likely to give great answers in your upcoming IELTS test. My name is Eli and I'm an ex-IELTS examiner. I stopped examining some time ago and now I put all of my best advice, tips and strategies in my website, EnglishProTips.com. If you've got your IELTS test coming, definitely check out all of my IELTS courses, which, by the way, you can start for free. Just go to EnglishProTips.com. My courses have already helped thousands of students achieve their desired band score and, well, I'm basically just proud of them. Okay, on with the lesson. What do you like to do in your spare time? Well, my favourite thing to do in my free time is to go indoor climbing. I go climbing at least 3 times a week and I've been rather obsessed with it for the last decade. One of the reasons I like climbing so much is that it's good for your body and mind, but it's also fun and sociable at the same time. I've met a lot of my best friends through climbing. Okay, let's look at this answer in a bit more detail. I start with, well, my favourite thing to do in my free time is to go indoor climbing. So notice the question says spare time and I say free time. We often use synonyms in the IELTS exam. So if the examiner says, what's your favourite film? You might say, well, my favourite movie is Braveheart. Okay. I go climbing at least 3 times a week and I've been rather obsessed with it for the last decade. So how long have you been doing your favourite activity? I've been rather obsessed, which means I'm thinking about it all the time for the last decade. Now, a decade is 10 years. So I've been rock climbing for 10 years. In fact, truth be told, I've been climbing for more than 10 years, but I wanted to teach you this word decade. One of the reasons I like climbing so much is that it's good for your body and mind, but it's also fun and sociable at the same time. So remember, explain why you like this activity. Why is this the activity that you like to do in your spare time? Now, I say I've met a lot of my best friends through climbing, so I'm elaborating on my ideas. I say that it's sociable, and then I add an extra sentence to explain why I think climbing is so sociable. I hope you are enjoying this video. I wanted to let you know that I've made a PDF for this lesson. The PDF has all of the questions, model answers, and useful vocabulary. I'll put it below this video as a free download. Okay, on with the lesson. Let's look at some useful language. I'm really into, and then the activity at the moment. I'm really into photography at the moment. It allows me to activity while another activity. It allows me to exercise while spending time with my friends. I love climbing. It allows me to exercise while spending time with my friends. Lately, I've been spending more time and then a verb in an ing form. Lately, I've been spending more time learning Spanish. I've been activity for the last time. Okay, let me show you what that means. I've been rock climbing twice a week for the last 6 months. So I've been rock climbing is the activity, for the last, and then time period, 6 months. Okay, so we've got my answer here, and we're going to use this as a template. So what could we say instead of talking about rock climbing? Well, let's start at the beginning. Well, my favourite thing to do in my free time is to go salsa dancing. I go dancing at least once a week and I've been rather obsessed with it for the last few months. One of the reasons I like salsa dancing so much is that it's fun and creative, but it's also a great way of making new friends. I haven't been doing it for long, but I've already made some great friends through dancing. Okay, lovely answer, and we're using this template to talk about all sorts of activities. Time to write your answer. Now, if you want to get free AI feedback from Sammy, our AI teacher, then go to the IELTS speaking course and type your answers below the lesson. After about 30 seconds, Sammy will get back to you with feedback and a corrected version of your answer. I'll put a link to the speaking course below this video. What public transport facilities are there in your city? Well, we've got a bus system, although it tends to be quite slow and crowded. There's also a tram line. The trams are modern and comfortable, but they only really go from the city centre to the airport. Finally, there are trains, but these are used more for long journeys rather than inner city travel. Okay, so this is my answer. I'm going to explain some details about it. First of all, I mentioned 3 different types of public transport. I mentioned buses, trams and trains. So what about in your city or town? What public transport facilities are there? It's important that we don't just list the transport. We need to also elaborate on our answers, and I do that for each of these. First of all, I mentioned the bus, and I mentioned how it tends to be quite slow and crowded. It's very slow moving around the city and there are too many people inside each bus. Then I mentioned the tram line. The trams are modern and comfortable, but they only really go from the city centre to the airport, so it's kind of inconvenient. Finally, I mentioned the trains. These are used more for long journeys rather than inner city travel, so rather than travelling within the city. Okay, let's look at some useful vocabulary for this question. Specifically, we're going to look at some positive adjectives. How about this one? Well connected. So it covers many areas, making travel easy between different places. The transport system is well connected, so you can easily travel across the city. So great phrase. Punctual, meaning always on time. Trains here are very punctual. They rarely run late. Affordable, meaning not too expensive. Public transport is affordable, making it accessible for everyone. Modern, so using new technology or updated features. The transport system is very modern with digital screens and contactless payment. Okay, what about some negative adjectives for describing public transport facilities? Well, we've got crowded. Too many people making it uncomfortable. If you've ever been in the London Underground, it is incredibly crowded, especially during rush hour. So you can say the metro is always crowded during rush hour. Rush hour is when everyone's commuting, typically first thing in the morning when everyone needs to get to work, and last thing in the evening when people are coming home. Poorly maintained, a great adjective phrase. So this means not well taken care of and often broken or in bad condition. Some buses are poorly maintained with broken seats and dirty floors. Unreliable, not consistent, often late or not functioning properly. The bus service is quite unreliable. Sometimes it doesn't show up at all. Okay, so let's go back to our model answer and then let's work out how we could use this as a template. So here I've taken out some of the crucial information, but I've still left some of the useful linking phrases. So let's start at the top here. Well, we've got taxis, although they tend to be quite expensive and slow. So do you remember before I talked about buses, but we can use this same sentence structure for talking about taxis. Likewise below, we can say there's also the metro system. The metros are fast and convenient, but they can be packed during rush hour. Great. Finally, there are something but something else. Finally, there are tuk-tuks. But these are mainly for the narrow streets and can be super expensive if you don't agree on the price beforehand. Okay, right. Next thing you're going to do is to write your own answer for this question about the public transport facilities that exist in your city. Which is your favorite room in your home? Which is my favorite room? Probably the living room. I've got a spacious living room with lots of sofas and a projector for watching films. I like to spend my evenings there as it's a comfortable space with relaxed lighting that helps me unwind before going to sleep. Hey, I want to show you something really cool that I've developed at EnglishProTips.com. In my speaking course, you can watch the video with a model answer, do some quizzes, learn the useful vocabulary, and then this is the really cool thing. You can type in your own answer here in the comment section, then wait around 30 to 40 seconds, and voila, here it is. Sammy, our AI teaching assistant, will correct your answers and give you feedback for free. It's amazing and can help you to prepare top answers for the IELTS speaking test. To try this feature out, just register for the IELTS speaking course at EnglishProTips.com. See you inside. Okay, let's look at this answer in a bit more detail. I start with, which is my favorite room? So you'll notice that I am repeating the question. This gives me time to consider the answer. Which is your favorite room? Which is my favorite room? What is your favorite food? What is my favorite food? This is a very natural response to a question that you haven't really considered before. Then I say, probably the living room. So for me, the living room is my favorite room. What about for you? Which is your favorite room? Take time to think about this now before your IELTS test. Now I say the living room and then I begin to expand on the answer. So I've got a spacious living room. So that means a large living room with a lot of space and a projector for watching films. It's important to elaborate on why you like the room. You don't just say your answer and then move on to the next question. You need to show the examiner that you can elaborate on your answers. And I do that a lot. I also mention how I like to spend the evenings in the living room and how it helps me to unwind before going to sleep. So unwind means to relax. It's a very useful idiomatic phrase, to unwind. Okay, let's look at some useful vocabulary. Here are some positive adjectives for describing rooms. Spacious. The adjective I just used, meaning having a lot of space. The living room is spacious, so it's perfect for hosting guests. Hosting guests means when guests come to your home, you take them to the living room and maybe you bring them a cup of tea or coffee. Neat and organized. Clean and arranged in a tidy way. My office is neat and organized, which helps me concentrate better. Minimalist and calming, so simple and without too many decorations, making it peaceful. The minimalist and calming design of my bedroom helps me feel less stressed. Now, we would also want to be giving reasons why the room is our favorite room. So here's some useful phrases. It's the perfect place to, and then insert an activity. So we could say something like, it's the perfect place to read and unwind. Read and unwind. I'm probably talking about the living room here. It's the perfect place to read and unwind in the evening. I always feel adjective when I'm in this room. I always feel comfortable and relaxed when I'm in this room, or when I'm in the living room, or when I'm in the bedroom, or when I'm in the bathroom. It has really adjective atmosphere. So we need an adjective that describes the atmosphere. It has a really cozy atmosphere, especially in the winter. That's why I love my living room. It's the ideal space for and an activity. It's the ideal space for doing yoga in the morning. Okay, write your own answer for this question. Tell me about the house or apartment you live in. Well, I live in a beautiful old apartment on the outskirts of Edinburgh. It's a relatively large apartment which I share with my partner. There are 2 bedrooms, a living room and an open plan kitchen, which is where I spend most of my time. Hey, I want to show you something. You can now type your own answer to this question at EnglishProTips.com and Sammy, our AI teaching assistant, will correct your answer and give you free feedback. It's amazing and can help you to prepare top answers for the IELTS speaking test. Just register for the IELTS speaking course at englishprotips.com to get started. See you inside. Let's look at some of the vocabulary in this answer. So, well, I live in a beautiful old apartment. So think of some vocabulary to describe your home. You could say, I live in a spacious house, which means a large house with lots of space. A spacious house. Maybe you live in a small flat or even a tiny apartment. So what kind of home do you live in? Find some vocabulary. Now I say I live on the outskirts of Edinburgh. So Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland. Now if you live on the outskirts, it means that you live not in the centre, but on the part away from the city centre. But perhaps you live in the centre or in a residential neighbourhood. So a residential neighbourhood is a neighbourhood where there's not many shops, but lots of people living there. Perhaps you live on the east side, or the west side, or the north or south side of your city. So where is your home? Get some vocabulary and take the time to plan your answer before your IELTS test. So I say it's a relatively large apartment. That means relatively means quite, and large apartment means big. I've got a lot of space here. You could say I live in a modern and stylish apartment. You might want to say I live in a small and cozy flat. Cozy usually means small, quaint and warm. Perhaps your flat is bright and cheerful. So people come in and they feel very happy. There's white walls, lots of sunshine coming through, and it makes people feel good. Okay, now I say I share this flat with my partner. So my partner is my girlfriend. You could say I share it with my wife and children, your two flatmates, another university student perhaps, or maybe you live alone. Or you could say something like, I share my flat with 3 other students, if you're a university student. Perhaps you even stay at home with your parents, so you can say that. You could say, I live in my school dormitory, if you're at boarding school and still at high school, or even in university. Or if you're in university, you can say, I stay in student halls of residence. Okay, so who do you live with? Find some vocabulary. Now I say there are 2 bedrooms, a living room and an open plan kitchen, which is where I spend most of my time. So maybe you have a spacious dining room. Maybe you have a comfortable living room. Maybe you have a small balcony overlooking the main street. So a balcony is like you can open up the window and stand outside and you're overlooking the main street below you. So how would you describe the layout of your home? Try answering this question. Have you always lived in the same town or city? No, actually, I've moved around a lot throughout my life. I was born in London, grew up in Edinburgh, and worked in Barcelona, Shanghai, and Dublin. Now I'm living back in Edinburgh and I plan to stay here for the foreseeable future. Okay, let's look at some of the vocabulary in this answer. No, actually, I've moved around a lot throughout my life. So to move around means you keep changing maybe your job or your home. Then I said, I was born in London, grew up in Edinburgh. So if you grow up in a place, that means that that's where you develop as an adult. So you develop into being an adult. I was born in London, but I grew up in Edinburgh, in Scotland. Now I'm living back in Edinburgh and I plan to stay here for the foreseeable future. So some great advanced vocabulary here. Foreseeable future means as far into the future as you can imagine or plan for. So you could say things like, I plan to live in my current home for the foreseeable future, which means you have no plans to move home. Or, I don't have any plans to move home in the foreseeable future. By putting the word foreseeable before future, you go from being band 6 to, say, band 8 or band 9 vocabulary. Okay, what about a different answer? So, have you always lived in the same town or city? Well, yes, actually. I was born and raised in London. I've lived in a few different homes, but I've always stayed in London. I have no plans to leave in the foreseeable future. Okay, so in this answer, the person is born and raised in the same place, in London, the capital of England. So what's the vocabulary that we can learn here? Well, we've got this nice phrase, I was born and raised in London. So born and raised means born and grew up in the same place. It's a very useful collocation. I was born and raised in London. And then we've also got foreseeable future again in this answer. Thanks so much for studying with me. Remember to check out my IELTS speaking course if you want to get similar lessons for all of the most recent IELTS questions. And I would also suggest that you make use of Sammy, our AI IELTS bot, who will give you feedback and correct your answers. You'll find Sammy in the IELTS speaking course waiting for you. So that kind of sounds a bit freaky, but anyway, thank you for studying with me and see you in the next lesson. Bye.